Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it's just Marco here once again. I am here to review The Black Phone. And Safi was going to review this actually. We were going to do a review together tomorrow, and then we were gonna see Elvis, and we were gonna do a review of that. But what ended up happening was we're gonna do a commentary tomorrow, and it's gonna take like 4 hours. And so I don't, she shouldn't have to do more than that in one day. And so I just thought like whatever, I'll just review it myself. But we will let you know what she thought of it when she gets to go see it. So I didn't really have any expectations for this movie other than I just want to see a good movie, which is a tough thing to ask for in 2022, especially when it comes to horror, since horror has gotten so bad that people will just settle for anything. And in some ways, it's a good thing because there's a lot of independent films, and they get a little bit of a spotlight nowadays because people will just watch anything horror. And so there might be some films that people like and or don't like, and so I don't know, maybe that's a good thing, but for the most part horror sucks. And especially mainstream horror, you can't even really call them horror movies nowadays. Uh, but this was definitely a horror movie, and I it's a nice thing to go to the movies and see a good movie. It's a very nice thing. It was a very simple story, and yet it was very creative, and it, it had a lot of there was a lot of emotion in there, even though the majority of the movie takes place in this one room. And that is something I'd like to talk about a little bit because it is a Blumhouse movie, which is you know, that's the mark of trash. And Split is another Blumhouse movie, and that was like a similar movie in which like you have a person who gets taken captive, and then they're in this one room the whole movie with this killer guy, person, monster. I don't know what he is. I mean, he's just he's something. He's the grabber, is what I mean. Like he's like a myth and a legend, like Pennywise the clown kinda, and it's like a similar type of film. And I'm not saying like that there's any copying. I'm just saying like in terms of it made me think about Split when I was watching it a little bit at some points, and then at other points I forgot about Split, and so it was. I think it was better than Split, though. I mean, I do think that in terms of being a horror movie, it was pretty creepy, and there were a lot of points where there was this really, really intense feeling of discomfort and nausea, and not like nausea like throwing up, but like nausea when there's good suspense. Because whenever there's suspense movies, they give me stomach aches. Like I watch them, and the way that I can tell if it's a good suspense movie, like a Hitchcock movie, is on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do I have a stomach ache when I'm watching it? And this movie gave me a stomach ache quite a few times, and so I enjoyed that. And I really love the villain in this movie. And I was looking at interviews, and Ethan Hawke, I haven't seen a lot of his films. He said in like an interview that he's been holding off on playing a villain, and because he thinks that once you play a villain that's all you'll be known for. I don't know. I don't really I think that he's such a versatile actor that if you thought about him, you'd think about all of his different roles. I mean, when I think about him, I'm not going to think of this movie. I'm going to think about Good Will Hunting because he was a highlight of that film. So I would kind of disagree with that, but I'm glad that he chose to play this character. I thought that he did an amazing job. He is the I think he is the best villain of 2022. He was very he was scary. There was this one moment where I'm not going to give anything away at all. I'm going to do non-spoiler and then spoil it in the second half. There was this moment where you see him sitting in a room with with his shirt off, and he's still got the mask on, and like it was like, ugh, it just made me like shiver and shake. Like it was very uncomfortable to look at. It reminded me a lot of what if they did that shitty Morbius scene where that guy's doing fucking naked push-ups. What if they did that scene, but they did it like in a scary horror type of way? And so I really liked that scene. Another thing that was very interesting was the use of the black phone. And now again, I'm not going to give away anything because when I went into this movie, I didn't see any trailers. The only thing I saw was the short clip that I couldn't avoid on YouTube where you see him grabbing the main character. That was the only thing I watched. And I didn't even want to watch it. I was forced to. And so I don't want you guys to, because I do think that it's a movie where you should go in knowing nothing except for maybe the concept, maybe the tagline, I don't know. The poster, the poster's pretty cool too. But the use of the phone was really, really creative. And that's something that I was really impressed with. Because just this day, I was talking about the Old Man, that new show with Jeff Bridges, and I was talking about how it's a rule that you do not have like all these important scenes on the telephone because you're not getting face to face interaction, and it's shitty. It completely, to have important scenes done on the phone is just a really bad writing choice. And the Old Man, a lot of like the first episode, the second, third episode, there's all these scenes on the phone. It's like, put the phone down and do something. Like, like they just do nothing in that show but talk and talk on the phone, and it's so boring. And in this film, it's the complete opposite to the point where I was actually looking forward to the moments where the phone would be used, and and like in terms of like talking and stuff like that. Like I was looking forward to those moments, and so it was done really well. And there were some choices made in terms of visuals that I really liked, and it was really cool because it showed that that they could break the rule for this film, and it actually worked. And I really thought that that was another highlight of the movie. It had a smart feel to it too. It was very smart. As much as I loved, I will reiterate because I don't care. I think it's a horribly misunderstood film. I really loved Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. And the characters, they were all written to be unlikable. You weren't supposed to like those retards. And as much as I like that film, though, I don't think that film was as smart or creative or even scary as this film. So I would say that The Black Phone is now the best horror movie of 2022. And I would also say it is it's close to being the best movie of the year. Like, I don't know. There are a couple of issues with it. If I really got to start to, thinking about it and analyzing it like a snooty critic should and would, I guess. But for now, it is the second best film of the year, with the first one being Top Gun Maverick. And what else? I really love the main characters. I love the main guy, Finn, Finney. And see, I remember his name. That's how good of a character he is. With a lot of these films and shows, I don't remember any of their names because they're just so forgettable and trash that I'm just not going to care about what their names are. I literally just won't care. And then I love the sister. The sister's so cool. And she reminds me, she's very much like a Stephen King type of character. That's all I could think about when I was watching the film was, she reminded me a lot of like and this isn't giving anything away, just in terms of the way she acted and the way that, she was really smart and everything, and gifted. She reminded me a lot of the girl in Rose Red in terms of acting and all that type of stuff. And so yeah, and of course everything came together in a perfect way. It had a great third act. Someone else said that, and I would agree. It took its time in the first 20 to 30 minutes, and there wasn't a single point in the movie where I got bored. It was perfectly paced, perfectly structured, but I just loved how in the last 10 minutes everything came together. It was like the writer, he had a checklist of all the plots, all the characters, and he went check, 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 check. Okay, movie's over. And it's like that. That's how you end a movie. You don't end a movie by saying, like, okay, audience, time for you to figure out what happened. Uh, so I really like that aspect of the film, too. So overall, I would say that this was actually a really, really good movie. I really enjoyed it. I would definitely watch it again. Uh, Definitely. So, in terms of food, it is a little bit tricky because I don't want to give anything away. And typically, when I do these food reviews, I'm always like saying, well, the dessert is actually a burnt, fucking lava cake because that character died. And then, I'll just be like full on spoiling. I think that this film, though, there was this one piece of cake that I had in Philadelphia one year, and it was a very good piece of cake. It was a very good piece of chocolate cake, and the trick was it came with this cream sauce, and you dipped the chocolate cake in the cream sauce, and it was so refreshing and light, even though it's a chocolate cake. Usually, whenever you eat chocolate cake, it's always very, very. Ugh. It's heavy. It fills you up. It makes you feel like you've eaten too much, even though you only ate like 400 calories. Uh, and I would say that this film, it was a very good, just a simple, good, fun horror movie. And that's all I can ask for in 2022. I would say that it deserves a lot of attention. It deserves a lot of praise. And I really hope that people go out and support this movie, because I don't care if it's a Blumhouse movie or if it's any type of movie. Like, I don't care if Harvey Weinstein had his name on the movie. I would still say that this is a really good movie. So that just shows you, there can be good movies in the year of 2022. And I would say that this is a perfect example of how to do a horror movie. And now let's get to the spoilers, because I'm sick of like just going like she's gifted. Like, yeah, she's gifted in a certain way, and actually some people were saying, and it's a very realistic gift, and some people were saying it's this unrealistic superpower. I would say, in terms of the timing, in terms of like how she's able to have like a dream and it's about the person who just called him, and then she'll have another dream. And I would say maybe a little bit of that, just plot convenience, but I don't care. But as I've talked about on the channel quite a few times, I've experienced those types of dreams. And for instance, last year I was watching a show, and the night before I had to watch and review the final episode, I actually dreamed of the ending of the final episode completely in my dream. And so it's a realistic superpower. I mean, I don't think that it's unrealistic at all. So you can go fuck off with that shit. And it's really the movie started off with this great atmosphere, because it's bad enough that these kids all had to worry about getting killed, getting fucking whipped and shit by the grabber. But the kids at the beginning of the movie, like, they got to worry about other kids killing them too. Like, it seemed like it's hard to imagine, like, any of these kids. It's like a class of 1984 type of situation where all the kids are like killing each other and raping each other, and it's like, this is terrible. Like, this is such a terrible environment. And it's a lot like Split too, where, at the end of that movie, spoiler alert, she escapes one bad guy to go home to an even worse guy. It was exactly like that. And of course, then they ruined that in Glass by undoing it in a matter of seconds. But at the ending of Split, it was a very dark ending, because you knew she was going back to a similarly horrible environment. And the dad in this film, he's abusive as well. But I love seeing the dad because he was played by this guy named Jeremy Davies. And he's a really good actor, and so I enjoyed seeing him in the film. I wasn't expecting to see him, but he also plays like an abusive Stephen King-esque father. And the main kid, he's very smart, and I love the message of the movie, of course, where you have to face your fears, you have to stand up against what you're afraid of. It's a very good, positive, non-political message. That's another thing that I didn't even talk about in the non-spoilers. There's no political agenda shit in this movie. So overall, what else should I talk about? Well, I was really looking forward to each time he got a call. And there was a point where I realized, like, oh shit, that guy at the beginning of the movie with the headband, I think Robin or something, he's gonna call him near the end, and he's gonna be like the final, like his Apollo Creed, and helping him escape, mentoring him into escaping from this guy. And I really loved that. That was probably my favorite part of the movie, when finally he got to have like a little reunion with that guy, talking to him on the phone. And what I loved about these phone calls was the creativity with showing the ghosts of the people while he's talking to them on the phone. And it was such a clever way to, like, okay, they're on the phone talking, but they're in this room. They're both in the room. One of them's a ghost though. And I thought that was that was great. That was really good. And the grabber himself, I just loved the mystery around him. the way that his mask kept on changing, his look kept on changing, and it's like, what is with this guy? Who is he? What is he? Like, why has any of this even happened? Like, why is there a black phone that ghosts call? Why is it that, these two people can hear the phone ringing? There's some very interesting questions. Uh, and I do think, though, that some of the horror was kind of taken away a little bit by the house being so normal. The house, of course, he lives underneath his brother. His brother, they share a house, and like, he just like there's like it's complicated underneath basement situation, and the brother has no idea, even though the brother he thinks he's a smart ass and he solved the crimes, and that part was pretty funny, and but it sort of took a little bit of the horror away from me, uh, for a little bit, in terms of it almost seemed like it was an alternate dimension. Like, it was really, you kind of had this hopeless feeling. And I loved how, even though everything felt hopeless, that he was still able to end up escaping at the end. And the moment at the end where he gets to kill the grabber was really, really badass and awesome. And it was such a great payoff. Instead of making the villain have like a sympathetic moment where he's like, "Oh no, did you, little boy, did you know that my parents abused me?" Like, instead of there being like this stupid little moment, like, no, it's like, boom, you're dead, and welcome to hell, loser. And all the ghosts got to say something to him, and he fucked his shit up, and I love that. There's too many villains nowadays who are just given like a free pass for what they do, and it sort of seems like there really aren't villains anymore. And I loved how this guy, he was a villain, and he was scary, he was creepy, and he was a fantastic villain, even though we didn't know a lot about him. Something else that I loved, which is, a little touch, is that all the kids swore. None of the kids were acting like they're in a TV movie. All the kids talked like kids. And that's something that Rob Zombie got a lot of criticism for when he did the Halloween remake. And he's like, why are you criticizing? They're just talking like actual kids talk. And so it's the same in this film, where the kids actually look and sound like kids. Like, wow, good job, Hollywood. Good job. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I just really love the movie, and I'm really glad that I gave it a chance, and didn't just say, it's 2022, it's a Blumhouse movie. And so I guess from now on, I'll be trying to review more horror movies, more smaller horror movies that come from Blumhouse, possibly. And so, yeah, please like this video, comment, and tell me what you thought of the film. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Because I don't know, like, why, it's like, why would you hate this movie? Like, I genuinely am curious to know, like, because there were so many fun ideas, like the dreams were really cool. They were really well put together. They were like home movies, but they were dreams, and they had these dreamy elements, and they were pretty cool. They were like David Lynch sequences, and the music was pretty good too. And there was a lot of good stuff in this movie. So I genuinely would like to know, like, why did anyone not like it? That's a question you always got to ask. Like, with even classic horror movies, some people don't like Halloween. Some people don't like Silence of the Lambs. And you always gotta wonder why. And then please subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more movie reviews. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.